Oh yeah, no worries. As far as I know, I'm fine with everything. I mean, it's obvious that like I can't use
Yeah, we're fine saying.
uh like work
Yeah,
terms,
we'll talk about mega
but
corporation.
like other than that, yeah, I'm fine. I can actually even talk about what my job is. I just can't like use like internal terms,
We
um,
will refer to them.
which honestly is kind of a
Yeah, we'll
bitch.
refer to them as the mega
But
corporation. And
oh no, you can
oh
say Amazon. It's
fuck,
fine.
I was gonna have so much fun being
No,
like
the one that
vague with it.
the Megacorp. Yeah, you could call it what it is, which is ivory tower
Hmm.
bullshit.
Well, it seems like even Amazon has a better policy on that than I do, than my place does.
Oh, which now?
But I just work for like generic as fuck place, but they have a. I had to sign something saying that if I'm going to associate myself with the company online, I'm not allowed to talk shit about them.
Oh, yeah. So, like, the extent of what ours is just like don't leak company information. It's pretty much just make sure you don't say anything that isn't publicly available, and even if you do say something, only state your opinion and don't state like facts, because once you state facts, you become like accountable with like legal proceedings and stuff.
Yeah.
Weird, honestly.
All right. More to the point, who the fuck are you?
So I am. Which one do you want? Do you want like a name or like the internet name?
Um. Well, I'm no matter what you say, I'm still going to be Moon. So if you want to follow my lead on that, that's cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Jengah. Let's see here. I am in the back alleys server, and that's how this
Yeah.
fuckwit
How long
found
have
me.
you been there? Because I've
Um, I actually was a long time lurker.
yeah, because I remember. I'm not sure
Found
if you were there before or after me, but like, I don't remember you joining the server, but I certainly don't remember you posting for some time.
yes. So I found out about the back alleys forum in 2011 after watching, oh god, which one was that? I think it was RTIL the B, um, on Newgrounds. No, not 2011. Way before then. But like I knew about the back alleys, and like I went there a couple times. I didn't do much, and then like 2011, 2012, I started just like being there. I never really posted anything because it was just like this is an interesting place to be. And like I poke my head in the IRC every so often, and like I think I made an account in like 2013, but never used it. And then I was going to go into the IRC one day, and I noticed that it had moved to Discord. This was like 2016, I
Mm.
think, and I just joined the Discord and like slowly started saying stuff in like mid 2016, and then just became a regular in there.
Oh,
And yeah,
mid
the rest is
2016.
history.
That would put you there before me and talking there before me.
Right. Actually, I feel like you were there around the same time I was.
No, I wouldn't have shown
Um,
up until about December 2016,
mm, yeah,
because it's coming up 3 years now.
I think I would have been. Yeah, I would have been in like a sophomore in college. That was yeah, that
Well,
was
I guess
2016.
that also hits in it. How old are you now?
I was three. I turned 24 in March, which that's another fun thing. Uh, the company I work for was founded in May of 1996, which is 2 months after my birthday. So I'm never going to forget how old I am anymore because I actively forget how old I am. Um, but yeah, so I'm 23 right now.
So,
Yeah,
oh,
let me
go.
just what
Yeah.
let me just run it down from start to finish of like high level. What these last 23 years have been. So I was born in Oregon in Corvallis. Um, Not much notable there
So
except
I need to
like
look up this place now. How is it spelled?
Oregon State University.
Kurval.
Uh, it's Corvallis. It's there's not a whole lot there. It's where my So I have to be specific, but I'll get to that later. It's where the my grandparents on my dad's side, that is my biological grandfather and step grandmother, live there. However, they're all my grandparents because this happened before I was born. I'll get to that later. In fact, let me make a note of it so that I can like come back to these.
Oh, good. At least someone's keeping notes because
Um,
I've had 3 weeks to prepare for this and I've done absolutely nothing.
oh, I don't blame you. I have done nothing either. Like I thought about writing stuff down, then I was just like, nah, I'll
I think
wing
I
it.
wrote down a bunch of
Um,
names to give you, and I've lost. Oh, here we go. The baker of cookies, the petter of cats, and the master of yoga.
wait, what? I don't know any of those. We'll get to it, but so yeah, I was born there. I have no memory of it because when I was like one, we moved to Texas, this small town called Manor, Texas, spelled like Manor. I didn't find out until I was like 6, playing at like a Hamtaro game, that uh, that spelling is actually pronounced manor, um, because I just lived in the town called Manor. Um, and it was a pretty small town. I grew up on farm, but it was not a farm. Like it
Is it
was
what we would call a lifestyle
like
block over
six
here?
acres, maybe. It was, so what it was 6 acres of land that we did not use. We lived like towards the front, in this. I think it was like one of those like pre-built houses that you could like move on a truck, like a big truck, and then like built out to it, like built out from that thing. And then we had like at one point we had a cow, we had some chickens, we had a horse, and we had a
Yeah, this
shitload of
sounds a lot
cats.
like a lifestyle block.
We also had
Where where a lifestyle block is
um,
basically just not quite a
uh,
farm, but it's something people do to say that they live on a farm.
yeah. My dad was having a
Oh,
midlife crisis,
nice.
but yeah. So it was me, my dad, my mom, and my two brothers who were 4 and 5 years older than me, respectively. Um, and yeah, we had like 30 cats. We had like 3 indoor cats, and then like a bunch of outdoor cats that were constantly having babies. Um, and we would either give away the babies, let them live on the farm. That was actually it. It was one of those two. Um, and uh, with the cats, all the outdoor ones, it's like some of them would go missing every so often. It was like, okay, they either wandered off, were eaten, or someone picked them up. All three were fine because it was just like we just feed them. Um,
There is a cat food
and
trough, and whoever comes comes.
pretty much. And we had this one cat. I want to say his name was Jakey, and he was like Jakey the third, but it didn't really matter. He lived on a roof, and like my mom would put food on top of the roof, and he would just come down and eat it, because it was reachable. And he would sleep on it, and it was like a sloped roof. And every so often, he would like be so asleep that he like rolls in his sleep, and he would just roll off the roof. Um, so we'd just see like a black blob just like
He
fall by the
sounds like
window,
he
and then like a
sounds like that
scuttling.
useless Italian uncle that you're supposed to have. You know, this is Uncle Jakey the Third. He just, you know, crashes
Yeah,
here every
pretty
now and
pretty
again.
much.
Can't look after himself.
Yeah. And then yeah, and then we had there was one litter of kittens. It was when I was like 4, I think, that they were all orange cats. And I wait, I have to look up when Lion King came out because that
I
will
think
tell
it
you
was
how
in
old I was.
1999.
Um, um, so yeah, Lion King had just come out, and one of the cats had a litter of orange kittens. So we named all of them Lion King related things, but also then we ran out of names, so we named them other things. So
Oh,
it was like Simba, Nala.
1994.
Oh God, then I don't know when this was.
How
either way, we were naming them Lion King things. Maybe it was like 2000. I don't remember.
Well, I mean, it did have
But
a sequel, didn't it?
um,
Or like it, or
we
like
didn't
a
watch that one.
TV series came after it. I know that much because I had a video
Yeah,
game for it.
there was. Yeah, there was a few. But the point of this story was I got my brothers had like been designated cats that were theirs before, and this was the first time I was gonna get a cat that was like mine, quote unquote. And I got the one that was Simba, which was this little like orange tabby kitten. And this is kind of morbid,
No,
but about 2 weeks after it was designated to me, we had a propane tank, like a big one,
no.
um, on the lot. No, no, no. This is going to misdirect. It's still bad. The cat dies. I'm sorry. Um, the propane truck bringing in the
Oh,
propane
for
ran over the
fuck's
cat,
sake.
and I saw it happen. So that was a thing as a kid. Um, but notable things that also happened while I was there was I broke my foot and I cracked my head open. I can't tell you which one happened when. One of them happened when I was 3, and one when I was 4. But I can tell you the events that caused them. So, the foot, what happened was my brothers and I, late one night, were jumping from like the main hall into like the family room, which had like 2 steps down to enter the family room. Uh, and we were jumping specifically into a recliner that was sitting in the family room. Uh, and I jumped funky and just like broke my foot, which like there's like 30 goddamn bones in that thing. So it was just one of those bones in the foot. Nothing like, oh, it got twisted and all that. It was just, no, I just broke one of those bones. And my mom came running out because apparently I made like a yelping noise, and she called the hospital and was like, "Hey, my son just broke his foot," and they were like, "All right, you can bring him in tomorrow if there's nothing wrong with it, but otherwise you're gonna have to come to the emergency room." And apparently, in the background of this, while they were talking, I was in the back saying, "It's fine, Mom. I can walk on this. See?" And I would take a step, and every time I would step on my right foot, I would say, "Ow." So it would just be step, ow, step, ow. Um, and apparently, the nurse could hear this and immediately ordered an ambulance to our house. Uh, and then, yeah, I just got put in a cast, and it was fine. The cracking my head open one was I was at a friend's house who was actually a
Oh, they all are
dick.
when you're 4.
Um,
Yeah, we've all seen the memes of like that
um,
one friend, the one who's like, if it's at your house, he's the guest, and you've got to be nice to him. But if you're at his house, it's his rules.
no, he was just. It really was just kids being dumb, but like he did a dickish thing, which is why I ended up cracking my head open. Um, so, key things to point out. First, this house is like pure white. Like carpet is white, it's high ceilings, the walls are white, the ground is like light
Truly
hardwood
is
floor.
Texas.
Um, this what's important to point out is like you come into the house, and then there's a hallway going left and right, creating like a box where both things end up in the main living room, which is just like a big room. So it's a big rectangle, and there were like some rooms to the left and some rooms to the right, but I don't remember them. Um, and what happened? There's 2 things I remember. The first is like to the right, he had a playroom, and there was a full size trampoline just like in a room. Um, because fuck it. Um, but that's irrelevant to this. On the left side, there was like a closet that he had all his toys in. And what happened was he said, "Hey, I've got this thing. Come look at it." And I'm like, "Okay." And I walk up to him as he's like rummaging around in this closet, and he pulls it out, and he's like, "I've got this." Uh, it was a like toy plastic knife. However, because I was 4, I could not tell what the fuck it was. Besides, this is a knife. Um, and so he started chasing me with it. And so we were running around that corridor, like that rectangle, like in and out of the living room on like a loop. And either on like the third or fourth pass, I get the genius idea to run a little bit further back into the carpeted area where there's like uh, a glass
Oh,
coffee
for
table
fuck's
with
sake.
sharp corners, um, and like with like chairs around it, like the couches around it, like a sitting area for where you'd have coffee. And so I dive to try and get under that table. I don't know why I did that in the first place because it is see-through. Terrible hiding spot. But either way, I mistime the or misjudge the height and end up just banging my head on the
Well, I mean,
corner
it
of
could have
it.
been worse. You could have smacked your shins
Um,
on
right. But so on like the upper left part of my forehead, there's just like a scar there. No one apparently notices it now, but like it was noticeable when I was younger. And fun fact about the face is it bleeds infinitely more than any other part of the body. Um, so this all white house, and I'm just bleeding profusely out of my head. Um, Luckily, oddly enough, the kid's mom was like a nurse, so she just like figured out how to take care of it, and then uh, arguably the most important part of this story is I then got taken to like the ER to get stitches, and my dad picked me up because my mom was on vacation visiting family, um, and apparently they gave me
it. I don't
barbiturates,
know what that is.
and I was fucked up.
Oh,
Really strong
nice.
drugs. um, and so I was sitting in the back of my dad's pickup, um, like the back seat, just lying, looking straight up, and like tripping balls. Um, and my dad asked me how I was doing. And I distinctly remember looking straight up in the back of the car, and seeing like a TV, like an old timey TV, like floating by. And like if you've ever seen like one of those like breakaway books where it like takes an object, like a tech object, and like expands it into like every single component in like a 3D blown out view. Um, that's what I was seeing with that TV, except there was random shit with the TV insides. Like there was like just like a giant gear, there was like a carburetor,
I
there
don't
was a
think that was a
muffler,
TV you were
just,
looking
random
at.
shit. I was on drugs and was 4 years old. um, and so there's that. There's not really much more to tell about Texas because I don't remember most of it. I do remember we'd play like old video games a lot. We had like a PS1 with no memory card. This was important because we were playing Digimon World 3, which is an
It
ungodly long
is.
game, and we got like 3/4 of the way through it, and then someone turned it off. Um, so we had to do it all again. Um, and then we had a GameCube with like Metroid Prime and like Smash Bros. We had a SNES and a
Did the
Sega
Metroid
Genesis.
did the Smash Bros have a memory card though? Okay.
Yes, it did. Yeah, it came. We had the one that came with the GameCube and the one from Animal Crossing. Because Animal Crossing came with a memory card. Um, but was when I was a little kid, I would jump when I played games because I'd get excited. And what my brothers would do is, when I was mid jump, they would grab my ankles and just pull, so that I would just fall on my face. Stopped doing it. It worked. um, so that was Texas. And then when I was 7, my parents got divorced and I moved to Oregon.
With which parent? Or both? Or
My mom and my
Okay.
brothers. And so for Oregon, I spent it from to until I was ready for college, so 18. So I went from second grade to end of high school. Oh, there's one more thing I need to mention about Texas is in preschool, there was this other kid in my class. I don't remember his name. All I know was for some reason he targeted me. And what would happen was I would come into class and he would like for some reason like call me an asshole or like any other like asshole, fucker, any other bad word you could think of that like in 1999 2000 was not acceptable for a child to say,
Buttface.
especially a preschooler. And so because my brothers and I were like wrestling a lot as kids, like actually like beating the crap out of each other wrestling, what would happen is I would come in, he would call me a name, and then I would just punch him in the face. Um, and apparently, I went to the principal's office at least once a week and would get a referral for this. But like the principal was just like, "Oh, hey, it's you guys again. Here you go," and then we just leave.
And look what,
Not much there, just a dumb,
yeah,
weird
and look
story.
where it's got you.
Um,
Some weedy little blonde boy.
so far. And then so goddamn far. Okay, so Oregon. So I moved to a city in Oregon called Gresham.
What the fuck is with these names?
It
People
is.
just like the UK shit for these fucking.
It's like here. I'll type it in. It's like 10 miles east of Portland, but it is like the second largest city in the state, and no one knows it exists.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
It,
Dude, this isn't even another city. This is just like a district of fucking Portland. Jesus Christ.
That's pretty much how it works for like major cities. Yeah, it's not Portland; it's the Portland metro area.
You even have a Damascus, like just south of it.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
And fucking
yeah, it's
boring.
Multnomah County.
Like,
yeah, it's paired with dull Scotland.
Fucking Oregon.
Yeah, there's surprisingly nothing there. Who'd have thought it? But so yeah, I grew up there for the remainder of it, and that was so Gresham is very much the east side, which means it's the ghetto. So I grew up in like shitty, like lower income schools.
That's where the stories
and like surprisingly yes and no. So let me think through this first. I should also set up the layout. So how it worked was one weekend a month I would either fly down here to California, or my dad would drive up there to Oregon, and we would stay with my grandmother on my dad's side, who was biological grandmother. Let me explain that. That's an important thing to explain. So both my parents are from Oregon, and my grandparents are all also residents of Oregon. I don't know where they originated, but that's where they all live. So what happened was, so all of my grandparents got divorced, all of them. So and then they
the true great American
all
pastime.
but one set remarried. So my nana, which is my mom's mom, lived with my grandpa, who was not related to me, and had an entire another set of cousins come with him. But that's my grandpa. That's my nana and grandpa. Then there's Grandpa and Grandma Sugar, which is my dad's dad and his wife. There's Grandma Jackie, who is my dad's mom. She's the one who passed away and was the owner of Rusty, the dog I was posting in the chat.
Yes.
She passed away last fall. That was also where we were staying when my dad would come up, was at her house with my great-grandmother. And then there is my grandpa on my mom's side, who is estranged and has a wife, but I can't remember his name or her name because I've only met him twice.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
He was a miner. Like he owned like mining quarries. Like prospecting
emphasis on
shit.
the plurals.
Yes. He was out in Bend, Oregon, which is literally just the fucking desert. Like that's something I want to clear up about Oregon. Is everybody like thinks it's some massive like Pacific Northwest hub, like the entire state? No, it's Portland, which is right next to Washington, and then the right half of the entire state is
Yeah,
just
Nevada
desert.
plus it
Um,
looks like, which is something
yes.
I haven't considered
So
either
if
until
you,
just now.
yeah, and also like the second you leave Portland, it's just the South, um, and then like college towns. It's like college towns along I-5, and then like everywhere else is the
Oh
South
yeah,
and
I
the
mean you hear the
coast.
same about California
Um,
too. Like the moment you leave like Sacramento or San Francisco or fucking LA, it's
yeah,
no,
it's just
it's
nothing,
just like Republicans in the South.
pretty much. Um, so that's fun. But so yeah, and then summers I would spend 6 weeks down here in California. Um, and then so that was the layout. Um,
Yeah,
about
our
how this
wonderful
went down.
families that joined in. Well,
So,
before we get to the school part, well, the stories of the school part,
so yeah.
we'll get the kind of stats
Mhm.
down. How many stabbings, how many shootings, how many teenage pregnancies, and how many suicides do you think you can remember?
So, uh, stabbings, none that were okay. There actually is a stabbing, but it was an accident. I was just there for it and also supplied the knife, but was not. I'll get to that. That's high
Oh,
school.
I mean, I didn't mean you
Shootings,
were
there were.
involved in it. Jesus fucking Christ! Just like, oh, some guy got
Oh,
stabbed, like outside school. It's like,
oh. So it was mostly like people getting arrested for doing dumb shit, not so much like shootings and stabbings. Those weren't like it was. So my area was like the Pacific Northwest equivalent to like rednecks.
just generic white trash.
And
We'll say.
then okay, yeah, generic white trash, but like with like Northwest flavorings because like they would go mudding and shit, but also and like mudding and
So like,
hunting, but also would like enjoy a craft beer and
so
bullshit like
grunge
that.
plus
So
maybe. I don't know.
pretty much. Um, so yeah, there were some suicides. I'm not really gonna go into those because I didn't know much about them other than just like people adjacent to the family that it
Yeah.
happened to. Um, oh, it's also worth mentioning that like mom and all of the grandparents except Grandma Jackie were pretty decently religious, with more religious the older you got. Um, so my mom had like an on again, off again thing, but like the whole family, because um, Nana and Grandpa lived like 15 minutes north of us in Gresham, in a city called Fairview. Um, I'll get more to that later, but so they were there, and I was in and out of churches a lot as a kid. Um, First, it was a Lutheran church, then it was just like a Christian mega church, and then it was a different Christian mega church. Um, and yeah, that was really hit or miss.
They
Churches are
are.
weird, and I'm not gonna go into that one because it's just churches are weird, and I'll leave it at that. But so trying to think of like interesting things that happened throughout all of that time. So elementary school,
That's where the stabbing happened.
no, the stabbing happened in high school. Elementary school, it was pretty standard. Well, okay, everything I learned in Texas from preschool to first grade let me coast until the end of middle school. So when I was like 14. So 7 years, I just coasted off the shit I already knew. Um, that should tell you about how shitty Oregon public schools are, and also how weirdly good a tiny ass independent
Yeah, I was
Texas
gonna say,
school
I
was.
think this says more about
Like
how
I
fucking much Texas had its shit together.
like yeah. Let me actually talk about school in Texas because I remember that's actually important. Preschool and kindergarten, not much to talk about. It was
You know, this
preschool and
is what bro
kindergarten.
is. This is what a school
Uh,
is. No, get out.
yeah, and like draw pictures, eat snacks, so on and so forth. This is glorified daycare.
Oh, dude, you
But
got
first grade,
snacks. Fucking living the life.
But first grade, I was in the gifted and talented program, which was shortened to GT, and it was just like if you can read at like third grade level or higher, you could. Which I had been reading since I was like 4, so I could read at that level. Um, and I was put into that, which was like twice a week. I would get pulled out of class to go to a separate building that was like a room um, with another kid, and we'd get taught by a different teacher about like higher knowledge things for first graders, where it's like, all right, we're going to teach you geography, we're going to teach you um, like your times tables, and like we're going to read books, we're going to learn about science and shit like that, like hands-on directed learning. And we'd also go on a bunch of field trips that like were thinly veiled educational things. Like we went bowling and learned about inertia and like centrifugal force. And we'd go play laser tag and learn about lasers. And then like we went to the zoo because it's the fucking zoo.
Yeah, and fucking animals and shit.
That was pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. Which I don't even remember the Austin Zoo. Just that it was a zoo. So I did that. And also, I kept getting pulled out to be like tested for things in first grade. And I do distinctly remember getting pulled out, and they like had me talk into like one of those like old timey tape recorders, reading like passages they would hand me, and from doing that, they were like, "Yeah, so you're 7 years old and reading at a college level." And that kind of set the tone for the remainder of my educational career in public systems of just like, hey, you're ahead of the curve, so we have nothing to do for you. Um, so fast forward to moving to Oregon, and second grade is like you're learning how to spell and do basic math and do like basic reading, and how it also we learned about Native Americans because that's a thing in Oregon is you just learn about Native Americans.
Not even the Native Americans that were in Oregon, just Native Americans.
Native Americans in Oregon specifically. The Pacific Northwest can't call them Indians because they're not Indians anymore.
They're Indians.
But
they're
that
Indians.
term was thrown around a lot.
I mean, they tried starting shit over here when we had a bunch of fucking candies called Eskimos. Oh, so.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now they're called emos.
But yeah, so that was
arguably as bad, but fuck them.
Yeah, but so that was yeah, I get you. But so second grade was we learned about that, and mostly I was just left to my own devices to like read. So I was reading like all of the Harry Potter books that were out, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, my hands on. I also like read the entire like mini library they had in like the classroom. And so go to third grade, and it was the same thing as we were just learning the same thing, and it was weird. Did not have a particularly great teacher for that one. I think she quit like 2 years after that. To tell about what happened in third grade because it was just so uneventful. Fourth grade, I had a teacher. Oh, also I should mention that like every year for elementary school, my typical daily routine was like get to class, crack open a book I had, and then just sit and read it while everyone else did the regular learning because the teacher knew I had already learned what they were doing. For second, third, fourth, for 4 years I did that. But fourth grade was a teacher named Mr. Ing, literally like NG, and how he taught was like he would reward the smarter kids and punish the dumber kids. And because I was top of the class, what he would do is actually would have me punish the kids, and it was like really terrible. And so like me and like 2 other people were just assholes to like half the class. And it was just like, who runs a classroom like this? These are
Mr.
like
Hing, that's who.
9-year-olds.
Fuck.
Yeah, it
So,
was it was
did any
weird.
of this, like,
Um,
one, that, two, the just not giving a fucking class have any impact on your social development, we'll call it? Like, did you have friends and shit, or?
yeah. Oh, I had friends. Most of them, it was like 5 main ones. It was Sarah, Willie. I can't remember the other two people's name or the other three people's names because I did not see them after
Pete, John,
elementary
and
school.
Dana.
I something like that. But it was the other kids that were like top of class, and we would like kind of fight for top of the class, but more often than not, it was just me because I devices and could rack up any sort of arbitrary point system to determine who's best faster than they could, which was like there was like a reading program where it was like you filled out quizzes and you got points for it that you could then redeem for like random shit, and I had like 900 points because I figured out how to game the system, which was using magic treehouse books. Each one is worth like 5 points, and they all have the same fucking plot. So what you could do is just look at the back of it,
Get the character
um,
names.
get the character names, and then just do the quiz and get the points. And so I was like shitting those out like 50 points a day, and no one could keep up because cheating.
Cheating.
Um,
It's finding
and
exploits.
then pretty much being lazy. But I was also like actively reading at the same time, like things I wanted to read. Um, and then fifth grade was also relatively uneventful. At the end of each year in fifth grade, what the class does is like this presentation of the solar system, and like everybody gets put into groups. And the teacher was like, "Hey, I don't really know where to put you because you can work about 10 times as fast as any of these kids." Like he told me that, um, and was like, "So what you're gonna do is you're gonna work on the rocket that gets launched at the end of the presentation outside." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So like he gave me the rocket fuselage and like all the bits and pieces, and like I put a couple of like additional bits on it and like homemade parachutes, which was a bad idea when you make it a homemade parachute because it ended up being too good, and the nose cone ended up flying away when it got launched. So that was fun. Um, all right, so that was elementary school. Pretty, not a lot going on there. Middle school, I really can't think about much for that one either. Again, I was pulled out with like the smart kids to just go do smart kid things. I was in the school's jazz band for percussion,
Now, when you
uh,
say percussion, do you
and
mean the
would either.
drums or the triangle and tambourine?
So I played drum kit, but for the most part, I was actually on vibraphones, which is just like metal xylophones that resonate, and they're not like a glockenspiel. They're like big. Um, and what's fun about that was I would have to fucking like sight read it at jazz competitions, which you wouldn't think was bad, but like you have two mallets to hit with, and you have to like play it like a piano, like at the speed of a piano. So it was just awful.
It's like watching your
Um,
parents type on the keyboard. Jesus Christ.
Pretty much. But you had to be
Yeah, still
fast,
get that 40
so
words
that
per
was
minute.
fun. Sight reading jazz music, which is just a layer of horse shit. Like I love jazz music, but like playing it on that was not
Oh,
fun.
fuck, some of them even have like the
Um,
foot pedals. Jesus Christ.
yeah, ours was broken, so I didn't have to use the foot pedal. Um, but what else happened in middle school? Uh, yeah, middle school is also uneventful. High school is when things start getting fun for like everything. So let's fast forward to my freshman year of high school. I was 14, I believe. Um, Actually, yeah. Let me date check something real quick.
So high school started at
It's
13.
it's 2019 now. Yeah, yeah. 13, 14.
2010.
So it was
Surprised you're the
2019
same
now.
age as me.
2010.
I'm older
So
than you by
in that
like a
case,
month.
sounds about right, to be honest. Okay, so it would have actually been my sophomore year. Freshman year, I was in drama and band, and in because my brothers were in drama, so it was just like, hey, guess what? You get to be in this too, and I was just like, great. Um, and like, I am a decent actor. I'm not a great one. Like, it's like keep your day job. Um,
I guess we'll say older
about
brothers as well. Are they autistically smart like you as well, or
yes. So there's the Oregon State um like like testing you have to do throughout your educational career in the K-12 system, and like a low score is like 220, and the highest score you could get is like uh no, a low score was like 180, the average score was like 220, and the highest score you could get was 300. Do not ask me who came up with this metric, because to this day I still don't fucking understand who the hell makes it
well,
on
it
a
sounds
base
about
3
as
system.
reasonable as every other
um
fucking unit of measurement you guys have.
yeah,
Like,
right. So like most kids would get like 220, 230. um I was averaging 280, 290. And there were like 3 to 5 other people any given year, any given subject, that was around the same
in the
level I
state or
was.
in the
Um,
metropolitan area of Portland?
in the st- the in the
Ah,
school, in the state, it was like 100 kids out of like 100,000.
yeah, not bad.
Um, yeah, and the one thing was me and one other person, Sarah.
Was she cute?
Um, we Nah, I don't know, because they were my rival, more or less. Um, and the one thing that we had going on that put us like above most of the other kids was we would finish in about half the time as anyone else. Um, so not only were we smart, we were fast. Um, and that kept going for really long. I actually met her in second grade, and we would just go back and forth on stupid shit. Um, and then also incredibly smart. Um, so it just we were smart people, uh, to the point that we found out we were often removed from like demographic sheets because we came from a sub poverty family, but we're top of the class, so it would have to get thrown out because we were also white people. Uh, so
So really,
yeah,
you
that's
needed
fun,
to not exist
being
to
a
just
statistical outlier.
justify funding or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, because it was we skewed things so extremely that we just couldn't be included. Because like the other people that were top of classing it were either female or not white, so that could be justified. Um, but fast forward to okay, freshman year, not a lot happened freshman year. Actually, no, something big did happen freshman year, which was because it was just me and my mom, and like my brothers had moved out because they both went to respective colleges. Oldest brother went to study law and then shifted to theater, and then my middle brother did comp sci for 2 years and then dropped out and is going back now. Um, that's neither here nor there, though. So it was just me and my mom. We actually moved in with my nana and grandpa because we didn't need the house anymore. We also had a cat named Cleo, who was this little black cat we found at a like store for farms, and it was a black cat that we had to have the front claws declawed because we had them in the rental house that did not allow pets, and we had to get rid of her when she was like 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's whatever. Um, anyway, high school for our years where things get interesting. Uh, I was helping in drama doing lights and sound as part of the tech crew, and there were like 6 of us. And the guy who was in charge, I'll call him by his last name because that's what he went by. His last name was Sauce with an S, so it was Sause. And he was in charge, and he was, for lack of a better term, a dipshit.
But he has the name Source, so it's fine.
So, and so he just was flaky and couldn't do anything. Like he was just gone all the time for when we were doing stuff. And when he did do stuff, it was either really slow or like really like not good. And oh, it's worth mentioning that the light and sound team was comprised of me. It was a handful of dipshits. So it was myself, Ryan, Forrest, Ryan and Forrest, or excuse me, Ryan, Forrest, DJ. These 3 guys will be relevant later. So those 3 guys, Sauce, guy named Alex, uh,
Ryan and DJ.
yeah, and I think that was it. Ryan,
Oh.
Forrest, and DJ. Um, but I believe that was the entire light and sound crew. Oh, there was also on sound was a girl named Brooke. And so she was on sound, and I was on lights. And who how it worked for our department was every Saturday for the course you had to come in and work at these work parties to get the play ready. And there were 2 plays a year plus 1 acts, and they were like major productions. So we'd have to be in every Saturday, and there were different crews you could be on. There was like construction, paint, management, and there was like another one that I can't remember. And I was on tech. And so what would happen is lights and sound cannot do anything until the stage is built and set. So for 3/4 of the work parties, our crew does nothing. So what we do is we just hang out. We would hang out in the light room, which was this room that you had to like go up a ladder backstage to enter the side of the theater where the light room was, and you could actually take another ladder up to the catwalk, which was like this full closed catwalk that was like 4 rows for lights, and it went back like 200 feet. Like it was a huge old theater. Um, and so we just dick around and not do anything during these work parties until we had to at the end. Um, and so when the crunch time came, my sophomore year, the drama director, Miss Dempsey, who was also the teacher, was like, "All right, we need to get the electric set, which was the backstage lights." And Sauce was nowhere to be seen. I was really the only one there who was like competent enough to do anything. So what happened was I had to hang the entire thing, the entire set of lights myself, and we did not have enough lights that were functional. So I had to go into the light room, rebuild half the lights without telling anyone, and then put them up onto the backstage lighting, and then run it. And that was fine. That same night, the director came to me and was like, "Hey, guess what? You're in charge of lights and sound now." And it was like, well, shit. So I took over that entire section of the department my sophomore year and kept being in charge of it until I graduated. And initially, it was I would run lights and then also be in the plays. So when we did Alice in Wonderland, I was the doorknob, which was like a projected doorknob. and then I had a microphone in the back of the building uh, on the second floor talking into the mic. But one night they didn't give me the microphone, so I just had to yell.
Jesus.
That was fun. But and on the light and sound team there was an adult who was the scenic director named Richard. Richard was a jackass who got off on the power trip of like being in charge of children, and I would just tell him to fuck off. So that's how that went. And come my junior year, I just walked out one night, like the night before a fucking play. No, this was the end of my sophomore year. I walked out the night before a play was supposed to go on, and the director said, "Fine, you could have what you want." And that was when I switched to sound. However, there's more shit I need to explain before I could get to there.
And just so I remember, because I've never been able to get your fucking school system down either. It's freshman, sophomore, junior, then senior. Okay.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. But so yeah, I was on lights and sound, and there was a lot of dickery, and I'm trying to think of like the important keynotes of what happened. Say I took over sound, and then ran sound. Okay, let me jump back a bit. So sophomore year, I'm running lights and sound. Fuck, hang on. What was the thing that happened when I was still on lights that mattered? Well, I can't remember. So let me let me explain the stabbing because I don't remember when that happened.
Oh, fuck's sake!
So,
I can't remember the story.
I think this was my sophomore year. So we had a lot of time to kill in that light room, so we did a lot of random shit. And among them included that was where I built my first set of MIDI floppy drives. I would also play like Stepmania in there, and we'd also just hang out and do shit. But one time I brought in my woodmakers, like my woodsmith toolkit or whatever the fuck it's called for
those
woodworking.
things that everyone has,
which was just yeah. It was a cheap one. However, what was important was if you pulled out the like shitty black plastic inserts, underneath I had stored some throwing knives and a like shitty ornamental knife that I got at a Ren fair that had like a sheath. That one's the important one.
Yeah, I think we'll get back to your history with Renaissance and steampunk. I think it was later, maybe.
Yeah. We'll get back to that one later. But so I had those, and like what we did was we just would close the door, make sure no one was around, and like that wasn't on the second floor with us because it was just like a little area that you could stand in before entering the room. We closed the door and locked it, and then we'd just throw knives at the door because we had throwing knives for it, because fuck it. But it's important to point out for what's about to happen next is Ryan and Forrest mixed martial arts for years. And so what happened was Ryan had taken out the decorational knife and was like playing with it and was like holding the hilt so that on the bottom of his hand, like near his pinky, was where the blade was, and he was like practicing like using it in mixed martial arts for stabbing, which was just practicing the act of stabbing. And at one point, he took the sheath off to get the weight down. And so he's like sitting on the ground, like against a wall, doing this, or like propped up against a filing cabinet that was full of lamps for the lights. But he was practicing stabbing this, and Forrest walks up and is standing next to him, doing something and talking to them. I should also mention all three of these people are dipshits, like legitimate dipshits. Um, and Ryan, thinking that the sheath is on the blade, proceeds to stab Forrest in the leg, in the calf, and cleanly pulls it out. And like does a double take and looks at the blade and sees that like blood's on it. Looks over at Forrest's leg, sees that he went clean through the gene into the calf, completely missing everything.
Miraculously.
And that now that there's like a 3-inch slit added to his leg. And also the blade was like 4 inches long, so it went pretty far in. And Forrest looked at it, went, "Oh shit!" Looked to the rest of the room where there was another guy.
4 inches isn't that long. I don't know what your girlfriend's been telling you, but
it's for a blade. It's pretty long, especially when going into a leg, which is only about like 6 inches across.
Like 4 inches, like what?
4 inches is pretty fucking long for a stab wound.
Maybe, but I'm just thinking it's like that's not much longer than a vegetable knife.
So yeah, it's not super long, but Forrest wasn't even phased by it. Like he's like, "Oh, I've been stabbed," because apparently he'd actually like never gone to a hospital for any injury before and would just deal with it. But there was another guy whose name I can't remember, who was not on our crew, hanging out in there, saw it, and ran to get an adult. And as he left to go get an adult, Forrest went, "Oh, shit," and like sat down and pretended to be injured. And we need to figure out a fucking alibi for why he just got stabbed in the leg. So what we did, thanks to DJ's brilliance, who is also a dumbass, is we took one of the like big ass glass lenses that you put in a stage light and just broke it with a hammer and just like scattered some shards around the like near where he got stabbed, so that when Bob, the parent who was like in charge of everybody that day, came in to treat him and get him set off to the doctor, saw that, oh, he got cut by a glass shard, despite being a perfectly clean.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hell of a time to get all that glass out of that wound.
Oh yeah, but so no one questioned what happened, or rather did not press further into what happened because they're like, fuck it, it's not worth it. And so that was the stabbing. But yeah, Richard, I fucking hated him, and I walked out at one point. And at that point, I got put in charge of sound. And so the fun thing with tech is, oh shit, where I was like, well, fuck, damn it. This is the same spot of, it was an important thing for tech.
So a tech thing in sophomore year.
Yeah, sophomore year tech.
Let's see, sophomore that would be in 2010 again. What interesting technological things happened in 2010?
Oh, okay, so here's the thing that happened in 2010 of that year is that is when fucking, and this is the story of how everything begins. So I'm gonna take a shift here and flip side to my home life, specifically my internet usage. So,
2010. We're going on to 5th grade. I think I know exactly where this is going. But...
oh, there's a lead up. So when I was a kid, we had like a shitty Compaq computer before they got bought out by HP. Feeling. And so we used like, it was like one of the sites was like UGO Player, which was just like an aggregate of Flash games and like Flash videos. Newgrounds, knew about Something Awful, and Neopets was the one, because I was a kid and it was like, play these games as a kid.
That and Adventure Quest.
I remember. I played Adventure Quest. I did not play RuneScape. I was not a RuneScape kid. I do remember kids who played RuneScape, and I also remember kids who had a MySpace account when that came out. But like, I never got one of those because I was like, I don't
What
give a
about
shit.
Bebo? Do you remember Bebo?
I 2005, 2006 somehow found my way onto 4chan and just like kind of went on there. I didn't start like regularly going on there until college, and that was no. I didn't start regularly going on there until high school, and that was for TG and F mostly.
Which one's
So
Flash?
now that I have that,
not FA. I know enough people who go in FA.
no, it was Tabletop General and Flash, and so let me okay, now that I've got that out of the way, and like Newgrounds and like RTL, that kind of stuff, like all the people in Newgrounds, like fucking Shadman before he was a bad person.
The only thing I remember like a bad from name. Newgrounds was fucking Blockhead. You remember? Yeah.
Yeah. Edgeworld.
No. Only Blockhead was the only thing I ever actually remember. Blockhead.
Which one?
The yellow idiot with the conscience of the guy that just wants to kill himself.
Yeah. And then like Madness and like Pico Day, Tankman, all that stuff, and like early proto YouTube as well. Okay, jump to 2010. This is where the things converge. So yeah, October 2010. Two notable things happened. First, My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic came out. Second, I happened to be on Go around the time it came out, so I heard about it, and I was like, okay, fuck it, I'll watch it. So I watched it and was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And I was like, I have Sony Vegas and Adobe Audition installed on my computer. So, and I was like, and I have a passable understanding of how audio works, or rather, I can use these programs and can do shitty video editing. So I went on to, I think it was called PonyChan, because 4chan had banned all any mention of MLP would get you banned at the time. So I went on to like their own forum for it, and like specifically the projects one, and just like went down the list of things and found this one that was like they were gonna overdub the show with male versions. And this was like 4 episodes in, so it was really early on. And I found it, and they were looking for people, including an audio person, or like an audiovisual person. So I messaged them and was like, hey, I can do those things. And they're like, do you have any like work you've done? I was like, no. And they're like, cool, here's our Skype group. So I joined the group, and this is where things start. So I was doing the editing for them, and there was this one specific guy who his name was Shim. I don't remember which one he voiced.
I don't think I want to know.
He was the guy.
I don't think I want to know which one he fucking voiced. No,
I didn't voice any of them.
Okay, anyway, okay, so there's a guy named Shim.
Anyway, he was a chill dude. He was just kind of weird. He's the one who actually got me into everything, or like the start of everything. So while I was doing this for them, I think I made like 1 episode. Because it was just taking the show itself, stripping it of audio, then putting the music back in with the sound effects with their voices over it, and that was it. Not hard. He mentioned that this group was doing, or he joined this group, this audio play group that was doing Sherlock Holmes stories, but like horses, because that was the thing, was just turning everything into horses, and they needed an audio person. And I was like, okay, I could do that. So I joined it and actually produced, I think, the first 4 episodes, and they were all like really fucking long. They were an hour long. And, I have to like source the music, do all of the sound effects, do the layering for the sound effects, clean up their audio, which like the lead guy who was Sherlock just had the shittiest audio in existence. Um, and all that. And while I was there, um, Pony in a Box, which was the ones who were doing the Doctor Who videos. There were two groups. It was Ponies with Pockets, which was I think Adventures of Doctor Who's, and then Pony in a Box, which was Doctor Who Adventures. I was in that one. So they were looking
there's
for
so much to
people.
the Brony lore that I was not aware of.
There's so much. What happened was Pony in a Box was looking for audio people to put together one of like three shorts. Like they had three shorts that they needed to have put together, and they were going to have three people do it so they could bring on more audio editors. Which it's worth mentioning that there are not a lot of audio editors. Were not a lot of audio editors in it to do the recording for people. So I think in my entire time there, in like being in like 50 plus projects, not actually working on all of them because a lot of them went nowhere, but actually being in them, I ran into like 20 people that actually could do audio video editing. And then like hundreds of people that were like voice
And
actors
ideas,
or
guys.
voice actors, and like writers. But like there were no people who could like actually handle the like put the stuff together. So what happened was I messaged them about that, about like doing the audio for one of those three projects. Once again, it was Shim who showed me this, and there was a miscommunication because they went, "Oh, hey, you're that guy who we messaged before. Here's this other project that we need you to do, which was called, I think, Bells of Fate." And I was like, okay, whatever. And I didn't really think much about it. And I just, put it together and gave it back to them like a week later. And they were like, wait, you finished this? And I was like, yeah. And so it turns out, apparently, that project had been in hiatus for like a year and a half at that point. So this was like 2011, 2012 at this point. And as it turns out, 5 other people before me had worked on it, and all had like bad shit happen to them while they were working on it. Like the first guy, his hard drive exploded. The second guy, like, got into like life problems. The third guy also had a computer failure. I don't remember what happened to the other 2 guys. One of them just went silent after a while. The 5th guy went silent, and they thought I was the 5th guy. So yeah, and so like I did it, and they brought me in, and they were like, "Oh wait, you're not such and such guy who we thought you were. Well, whatever, you're part of this now." And I was like, "Well, okay." So I was in there, and I did a couple projects for them, and then once again, Shim brought me in to. Okay, so there were groups that I got put into from there. The first was it was JV5 Games. What happened was Shim pinged me mentioning that a game studio that was all digital needed an audio person. So I joined this, and they were making a game called Air Dash Online. I believe you can still look it up, and it was supposed to be like competitive Smash Bros.
Hang on, just a sec.
Like you can't.
Is Shim something to do with a fucking pony that wears a like straw hat kind of thing? Okay, because apparently
No,
looking up Shim MLP comes up with a pair of ponies called Shim Sham.
no. He just went by that. That was his handle for like over a decade at that point.
Okay.
It was his name before he joined the community, but like his actual name was, his last name was Kritzman. I shit you not, that's how his name is spelled. Um, it's also worth mentioning he dragged me into the Ready Steady Pan tournament of TF2 to be the scout for his team. We actually got like 7th in the like global tournament. Oh yeah, I also played TF2 a lot and was semi-competitive, but that's does not have any stories outside of that. Um, so yeah, he showed me about this group called Air Dash Online or JV5 Games. They were making Air Dash Online, and I joined the group. Um, and that's how I found out about. We were adjacent to the Project M guys because they were coming in to consult, and it was really weird because like I joined that group. They're like, okay, fill out these NDAs, whatever. Play the Evo build, and then give us this list of sound effects. And I was like, okay. I did that, and like I recorded some sound effects with like a shitty USB Blue Yeti that were like okay, and they were like, these are okay, but can you make better ones? And I was like, yeah, sure. As I was making them, I sent them like a mock-up of some of the new ones, and then the studio was just gone. Like it just folded up overnight, and I
It's
never heard
almost
back
like
from anyone.
working with licensed material in the
So
game is generally a bad idea.
pretty much. So fast forward a bit, Shim points me to another group. This one called uh, Sanity Sold Separately Studios, and like I had to fill out like an actual application for this one. Also going to be a legitimate studio, and I fill it out, and the person who was in charge of it, Buttercup Saiyan, sees that I put Pony in a Box as a reference and was just like, "You're hired," because I love their work, and I was just like, "That's weird." Um, Also, nothing came of this group, but some notable things that come out of it, which is I found out not only is Zone a dude, he's also a cuck, and like wanted to get in the pants of Buttercup Saiyan, but she was currently dating someone else, so he would just come into Skype calls with her and like beg for sex acts, and then nothing would come of it. The more you know. Um, and then the reason why that studio went under is at a convention, all of her meds got stolen, Buttercup Saiyan's, and she was on some very strong antipsychotics. She went insane, got on a bike, and just disappeared for 3 years.
Like a bicycle or a
And the studio went
motorbike?
under. A, a bicycle. Um, yeah, couldn't fucking tell you what happened there because I honestly don't know.
And amongst all of this, signing up for all this brony shit, how close did you get to the porn side of it? I have to ask.
Buttercup Saiyan's nickname was the Queen of Clop, so that should tell you all you need to know.
Fucking Christ.
I didn't get too far into there. I mostly just kept to working on stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, they must have like asked you to work on hentai or some shit.
Yeah, I didn't really get into it. To give you an idea of so like I also like kept making stuff for them, but like was away from the community. Like I'd watch the show and I'd make stuff, but I would not participate further than that because I went to the first BabsCon because it was in San Francisco to represent the group. Saw a lot of people that were like bronies, and it's like, oh god. And I left. I was just like, I'm gonna stay out of this and like stop identifying as this because this is not a good thing to identify as. Not to say that they were bad people. It's just
and I gotta
they
say,
were bad people. There were a lot of good people.
You've done a pretty good job.
There were a lot of good people, but there were also a lot of bad.
And I gotta say, you've done a pretty good job of not identifying with it because until now I didn't know this.
Right. So the one notable thing about that BabsCon is I ran into Brian Drummond, who was the voice of Vegeta, like the original Vegeta, who said like the legendary "It's over 9,000" line. I ran into him in a bathroom and talked about soap for several minutes, not knowing who he was, and then went to a panel with him on it, and then going, "Oh fuck! I talked to that guy about soap for 5 minutes."
I mean, soap's pretty fucking interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also at that convention, I went into a like it was a panel that was like writers and artists collaboratively working together to make things. Like that's what it sold itself as. So I went there just to like sit and watch and like learn something because I was like, hey, this is interesting. I write stuff on occasion, not MLP shit, but I did write on occasion, and I was like, this could help with the collaborative process on how to make shit. Make my life easier when I work on shit for these people.
We need an audio guy.
Get in, and what it turned out to be was they were pairing people up, one artist and one writer, and you had to make like a pitch for a story in 30 minutes. The writer had to do that, and the artist had to draw like the like image that gets the whole idea across. And so it was me and this other guy, he was a really nice dude. And like all these other groups like immediately scurried off and were like, oh yeah, you gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do that. And me and the other guy were just like, hey, so what do you want to write about? And he's like, I don't know, what do you want to write about? And we just like threw some random shit together. And what it turned into was three like kids during wartime, like learning how to be friends, because it was like a regular horse, a unicorn, and a Pegasus, which like before the events of the show are all super racist to each other because that's canon. And it's like, okay, we'll just set it then. So I just like pulled some story about that out of my ass that was like a page, and he just like drew a thing, and like 15 minutes later we were done just chilling and just like doodling. Like he showed me how to like draw hands that were holding things
for a pony.
And then finally it gets done. No, like actual human holding something with their hands.
Nice.
Yeah, anatomy lessons. And so we get done, and like it's like, all right, everybody, time to present. And so like the first people go, it was like one of them was like library card, and then one was like some weird shit. I don't remember most of them. And so me and the guy go up, and keep in mind I had done like 3 years of theater at this point, so I know how to talk in front of people, and just like sold the story about like three kids having to learn. I was like, three kids who have to learn the adversity of war while overcoming racial boundaries and like getting everything to work, and just reading what I wrote. And everybody was like, "Whoa, this is so good!"
Like it's the cliche for 50% of every Oscar-nominated films ever.
It really fucking was. Everybody was like, "Oh, this is so good!" And as I was walking back to the seat, a guy was like, "Hey, what's your live journal or your film fiction or whatever the fuck it's called?" And I was like, I don't have one. And I also need to point out what I was wearing was I was wearing red pants, Converses, and a blue plaid flannel with the sleeves rolled up, because it was like 2000, and hipster was in full swing in Portland, where it like was actually good.
Good is so very subjective there.
So hipsters, people, Oregon hipsters are like just people who wore that and were chill. San Francisco hipsters are what you think of when you think hipster. But that's neither here nor there. I just looked like that. And so like the guy asked me what my like account for writing was, and I was like, oh, I don't have one. And as I'm walking back to my seat, I just hear him like go, hipsters. And I was just like, what the fuck, man? Gave the story to the guy who did the drawings, because he was like, can I use this? Because this is actually useful. I'm like, yeah, sure. But yeah, so that's when I started distancing myself from the community, but was still doing work. Okay, on to the third important one, which was Truth or Deer, which was way back, I think between the first and second season. Lauren Faust was talking about how she wanted to do this story about like a deer being sentient, or like a pony who is living with deer and has to find out he's actually a pony or some shit. And 4chan got a hold of that specifically Ko, and contrived means I ended up in that group as one of the leads. I was the lead audiovisual person and also had direct conversation with script writing. And a lead who was for 1,000 years, who was this guy who was just gone all the time, and then the lead artist whose name was Rat. And we were trying to get something working, and it was going slowly. And then this guy named Wrecking Fist, very aptly named, to be honest, comes in and starts leading everything and brings in some more people, specifically Tentacuddles and Doppel. And so Tentacuddles is was a major background player in Newgrounds era who worked closely with Rena Chan. And Doppel was a professional flash rigger who was working on Teen Titans Go its first 2 seasons. She was doing that while doing this as well. Which, fun fact about Teen Titans Go, the reason why it was like such hot garbage the first 2 seasons was there was massive restructuring going on. So the writers were being cycled through like crazy, and the execs for the project were also being cycled through. Just a little tidbit. But so Doppel was brought in to teach people how to animate, and Wrecking Fist was leading all of it. Like a second group was made that was Wrecking Fist, Tentacuddles, Doppel, myself, for 1,000 years, Rat. And that's where the actual script writing went on, because he was like stealing the project from them. All the time, Doppel teaching him animation. And as soon as he knew enough to get a job, he just disappeared with all of the project files, and the project ended up dying.
As you do.
There was another...
you do.
Right. However, there was another notable player who validated almost every rumor about Rena-chan. And this man's name was Slashy.
Before we go, I have no idea who Rena-chan is.
Kira Buckland.
Doesn't help me.
Brawl taunts. Never mind.
Obviously, there have been rumors, though,
so
and I'm assuming she's a girl, so none of them can be good.
The main one... So what happened was Slashy told me her entire relationship history for a 3-year chunk of time, which was a clusterfuck. I'm not going to go into it because that's not my place. However, the one thing I got confirmed that I gave a shit about was she did in fact shit in a bathtub. And that makes no sense out of context, but that was just a rumor that went around, is she shit in a bathtub.
Well,
and
everyone's
true,
shit in a bathtub at least once or twice. I know I have.
But it was as an adult, and she was plastered, and it was.
I don't think I did it while I was drunk, but and I wasn't a kid, but I was a teenager.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So. All right. That's the MLP shit.
Amazing.
And there was a couple other extraneous things, but they're all irrelevant for the macros. So because I'd been doing that audio stuff. I shifted to doing.
No.
What's up?
I was gonna say I probably already know the answer to this, but through all the MLP stuff, how much money did you make?
I actually made some money. It was not a lot, but it was $100.
That's $100 more than I was expecting.
Most of it. Pro bono. I'll be completely honest with that. Because all the things you can't legally have money move in a fan project. Otherwise, the second money gets involved, it becomes copyright infringement. So I did that for a few years. So, folding this back in, I took over sound my sophomore year because I had been doing that AV shit. And it turned out I had a knack for it, because it was just hey, I had a guy put on a microphone and go stand at the front of the stage and talk, and I just fucked with knobs on the EQ until it sounded like I was just talking to him like face to face. And I said, okay, that's cool. And then I ran a show like that, and historically the theater had like awful sound techs to the point that after my first night running it, a bunch of people who were like regulars came up to me and were like, hey, you did really good on the sound, because it actually sounds really good. Which it sounded okay. And that's really, that was that. And so I ended up doing just tech for the remainder of the 3 years with like a little bit of acting, but mostly just running the sound. And the last show, or the last showing of the first play ended like 2 days before Thanksgiving on a Sunday, or like a week before Thanksgiving on a Sunday. And my mom asked me if I wanted to go to the cast party. I said no because I was really tired. Went home, passed out, woke up at 3 a.m. with a fever of 103, and found out I had
I don't
mono.
know what that is.
So I went to the hospital, and they're like, "Yep, you have mono." And also, the coughing was so bad that I ended up getting epididymitis, which is a bacterial infection of the thing that holds your balls in place, inside the scrot.
Like
So
yeah, if
like,
you look at it, like the cross sections of the testicles, there's that thing that makes it look like kind of like the top of an acorn. Yep.
That guy. Yep.
Nice.
Infected. Because like what happened was the coughing was so bad that like the pee was like backflowing into the nut. So not only did I have a fever of 102 or 101 at that point once it was managed, so my balls were trying to be as far away from me as physically possible. But if they so much as grazed something, I'd be in like unbelievable pain. So I had to, so from November to I think February, I was just out for my senior year. So I don't actually remember most of my senior year because I wasn't there for half of it. Still graduated. It's like, how did you get mono? Well, you see, there was my ex who was crazy. Do not stick your dick in crazy. She was like weirdly obsessed with me for several years, and I ended up dating her my senior year, and I got mono from it. I also got a strain of mono from her. I got another strain of mono from someone else because I would buy weird health energy drinks and then let people try them if they wanted to. So I would share drinks. So I got both kinds of mono, so I was extra sick. This is also why I had a bias against Steven Universe, because 2013 was when Steven Universe started airing, and when you have 101-degree fever, am drugged up on Vicodin at all times, and watching day-to-day reruns, which most of what was in Cartoon Network at the time was like the first 6 episodes of Steven Universe, which are all terrible. I was like, I hate this show. So when I got to college, people made me watch them, but yeah.
Let's go back to the X just to make sure. Is this the one that raped you?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that, or should we just gloss over that one?
So the extent of that one was, I was pretty much just like, it was against my will. I was like shoved against the bed, and she, got on top of me, and it was like, you don't, like, people are like, but you're a dude, you could just throw her off. And it's like, nope, there's this weird thing that happens where it's like, you ever had a nightmare where like you want to scream, but like your voice just doesn't exist anymore and you can't do anything to stop it? It's like that.
But I get the idea.
That's really the extent of it.
Man.
Yeah. It wasn't pleasant, and like it's whatever. I'm I'm past it. Like, it wasn't as bad as like a lot of people I know that have been raped, because I know a fair amount of people have had that happen to them, and their stories are a lot worse than mine. Like, I got off easy.
It's one of those ones where it's still technically classified as rape, but it's not exactly, getting knocked out in an alley or some shit.
Yeah, yeah. So it was, yeah. Um, so that was that. I have more stuff about my ex come college, but let me see. Let me think if there's. Oh, okay. Now we'll get to the steampunk shit, because that also happened in high school. Um, so I think it was 2011. Is the local anime convention down here in California, Fanime? Their theme that year was steampunk, and my dad, uh, a year prior or a couple years prior, had founded the large steampunk group on the West
You want to say
Coast in
that one more
California.
time? The audio kind of cut out.
Oh yeah, no worries. He founded a large, like one of the largest steampunk groups on the West Coast. Him and another guy, they founded it, and like I kind of was interacting with steampunk at the time. Like we went to SteamCon in Seattle, and it was weird, but it was cool, and it was whatever. Um, but so that year at Fanime, I think it was 2011 or 2012. I could be wrong. Um, their theme was steampunk, and they didn't have anything like 2 months before it was time. And one of the guys who was a Fanime staff said, "Hey, I have a group," because he was the co-founder of the group, and so they rallied like punks over the course of a month and a half to just completely outfit Fanime with like a bunch of steampunk stuff for the con, and it went really really good, and it was great, to the point that Fanime said, "Hey, we've got this hotel, the DoubleTree, that we literally never use. So if you want to put your own sub convention into that convention, you can." And that's how Clockwork Alchemy was founded. And the first year of Clockwork Alchemy, it was me and my two brothers who were doing fill-in staff for literally every department, because it was a skeleton crew at the time. This was also the year my family found out I was in the MLP community, because what happened was I went to Fanime proper because I had time off to do so, and I was walking around, and that was also the year that like the staff got bags, like the gym bags that said Fanime staff on the back of them. So I was walking around with one of those on, and I was going to go to a panel about MLP stuff, but the panel got canceled because the two guys couldn't make it to the panel room 10 minutes before, because if you don't show up, they cancel it. The reason they couldn't get there was because like a bunch of gothic Lolita photo shoots kept cropping up, like because they were on the other end of the expo hall.
That is the best
so it got canceled
to never go to a panel.
Yeah, it was weird. But so the panel got canceled, but there were still like 100 people waiting for the panel. So the guys just moved everyone across the street to like a park to have it, and we're like, "Hey, you," pointing at me, "staff guy, come with us." Um, and like I was gonna go to the panel anyway, so I was just like, "Fuck it," I just came with them, and like it was not a great panel. But my sisters were also there, and we're like, "Wait a second, why are you here?" And I was just like, "Well, shit." No, no, because they were like, "You didn't have to go to this because you were staff." They were like, "He came here willingly." But it was whatever. Um, yeah. So that was the first year. And so yeah, the first 3 years I was just doing like prop setup, uh, like security, and like a couple other things. But for the years, so my freshman year of college onward, I've been running all of the tech for the concerts, just doing the concerts for it, and that's fun. It's a nice group of people, and we get ungodly high-end equipment for a room that does not need that level of ungodly high-end equipment. So that's always fun. Um, what else is?
So these are concerts at Clockwork Alchemy.
Yes. Every concert at Clockwork Alchemy, I'm the one running
Nice. Any good bands
it.
or anyone you would recommend?
Yeah. So unfortunately, there's this weird thing that happens where it's like all the bands I like and see live are really good live because the sound techs know what they're doing, but like the recordings are not as great. Um, for most people, that's fine, but like because I was taught audio production, I could like hear it, and that sucks. So like, if you learn how to do audio stuff, you'll hate yourself forever because you hear every problem in every audio track if it's not recorded properly.
That could be said of any profession. I mean, you hear about like ex-military guys watching action films and just like, why does that gun have the safety on? You know, there's a big orange tag on the front of the fucking barrel.
That's really how it goes. Yeah. But yeah, they're all good bands. I can't really think of any off the top of my head. I would just say like look up Clockwork Alchemy and just like previous acts. Most all of them were pretty good. Um, I was not there the year that Steam Powered Giraffe was there. That was like the one year I wasn't there. Um, and it's been like a yearly thing. Um, and then I came down here to study audio software development and engineering, um, which is just math or audio math and programming for audio.
All that good shit.
All that good shit.
Well, should say where is here?
California.
Like
the Bay specifically.
Like California State, whatever. Fuck.
Cogswell College.
Cogswell College.
I will type.
Well, if there was ever a place for a steampunk audio tech to go, it would be somewhere with a cog in the name.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a great college because it went for profit and then everything went to shit. God, I'm trying to think of like macro things that happened. God. So my
take your time.
So my third year in college, I believe, is when I found Sev, which is that like dusty cat I post pictures of that lives in the attic.
Wait, no.
Yes, it was I think October 2016 when I found her in the parking lot. And yeah, what I would do is I had night classes, so I'd go in at like noon and not get home until like 11:30, 11:45 because I was like taking the light rail that ran between the station by my house, which was like a mile away, and the school, which was on the other end of the city. Yeah. What's up?
Sorry about that. My phone decided to inform me that it is in fact during the afternoon.
No worries.
So you're taking the rail from
so what would happen
somewhere a mile away.
From my house, it was a station a mile away from my house, like in a straight line, to my college at like the other end of the city, like north side of the city, and I was in south side. Yeah, just one day in October when I got off the train, I saw a little like blob scurrying under the cars, and I was like, what the hell is that? Then like I saw it again the following night, and I was like, that's a cat. That's a young cat. So what happened is I went to the like 7-Eleven right next to the station, bought like a can of Friskies, and opened it, set it out between me and the cat, which was like hiding under like a semi truck's like cargo section. and it like slowly scurried out, ate it, and snuck back. And from that point to right around Christmas, I would go out there every night when I got home and the weekends with just like a small tin of cat food and feed it. And over the course of 3 months, got closer and closer to it until like I just picked it up and went home with it. Um, which also it happened to coincide that come Christmas time, I had time off to actually like take care of an animal at home. Uh, and then my schedule for the following semester was also forgiving enough that I could raise a kitten. And I took it home and we got it fixed. And I named her Sev because 7-Eleven. And now she lives in my attic.
And she's very, very fluffy. I love her very much.
And that's that. Same time from from when I moved down here in 2014 to end of 2018, a black cat named Baxter, who lived in my room from Thanksgiving of 2014 until he passed away a little bit after Thanksgiving of 2018, at the age of 22, I believe.
Ooh.
Cat I would post pictures of all the
time. No, I'm thinking. I have so many pictures of people's cats, and I have a hard time remembering whose is whose. I think this is your one. I just want to be sure. You probably just post a picture yourself, but come on, don't be a bitch. And I gotta remember to actually fucking post. Where the fuck did it go? Jesus Christ. This isn't your one, is it?
Obese black cat that looked old when you looked at his face.
I'm thinking of Sev still.
And was pretty. He was just like a sentient throw pillow.
Oh, here he is. In fact, we've got a picture of you with him.
On my face. No, that's Sev.
Well,
so that's the one I found at the park.
I like Sev very much. Very cute cat.
I actually, that top picture is my cat.
See, I am getting the hang of it, but yeah, there's so many fucking cats.
So the bottom picture is Sev, and yeah, that's the kitten I found. That's a girl. Sev is a girl. That top picture, I don't think it's mine because I don't recognize that couch.
That's fine. Like I said, I mean, I've got hundreds of people's fucking cats.
Yeah, they look similar. I don't blame you, but yeah.
This one.
So yeah, she's the one.
Same file name area, so I think this is yours.
That's.
I think we'll use that picture for
Yeah, she's
like video purposes.
I have a lot better pictures. I
probably have a lot better pictures myself. Oh, here's Baxter.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Right next to it.
Yeah, he was a good. Yeah, that's her. That's him. I think he was like 20 in that picture. He was a good old
it's
dated, fat idiot.
20th of June 2017.
He would have been 20. 21, actually, because he was the same age as me. And the same age as you. Yeah, so Baxter would purr like a lawnmower and had this like yowl that anytime I would be like in a game with friends using a microphone, they'd be like, why is there a baby in the background? To give you an idea of what he sounded like. But yeah, that was Baxter. He was a good kitty.
He looks like he's seen some shit.
He has seen some shit. He also had like everything wrong with him, we found out when he passed away. However, he was really fat, so we never would have caught it. Like he had like terminal cancer, fluid in the lungs, complete kidney failure, and they just stopped running tests at that point. However, The reason we never caught it was a telltale sign of any of those is your cat gets really thin, and he was like 16 pounds, so it was never caught. Good life, and that's really all I got on him. Um, what else happened? So college, I was going, and then after I found Sev, I believe the beginning of March, I needed to get like some extra pocket money to like buy a friend a birthday gift. This was the same friend who was the one who ended up abusing me for 4 years. So I'll make my own foot out of that. But uh, I needed to get money for it, like money to get them a gift. So I filled out some ads on Craigslist and did some like random stuff for gift cards. Like at one point, I was in a medical study that I accidentally like ruined because I asked what they were studying, and it like broke the test because I knew what it was ahead of time. I did like some tech ones where you just answered questions at the buildings. And then one was this ad to like come in and just like build computers for a day, which is just
Yeah.
like assemble them. So I go into this like rinky dink building, like near my school. The guy was like, okay, it was like a Chinese guy. And like they were all people from China because none of them spoke fluent English, and like they had their passports just lying around. Um, it was like three people in this big empty room, and all of them had their own offices, and I was just like in the central room, and they're like, all right, put these computers together. And I was like, okay. And they're like these like mini computers, and I put them together, and it was like a Sunday, and the guy was like I finished it and was like, hey, I'm done. He's like, cool, come back tomorrow. I was like, wait, what? And so I came back tomorrow, and it was just like, yeah, you just work here now. um so I was getting paid like 17 an hour as a contractor for like a month, and it was terrible. But like I got enough money to pay for the thing, and I was like, okay, I don't like it here. So I was like looking at ads on Craigslist to do literally anything else. That's it. That's the
Yeah, I'm
good
just gonna
bee.
keep posting pictures of your
Um,
cat now.
oh, by all means. Um, and so what happened was I filled out a bunch of applications for various AV things, and one of them was through Robert Half, which was like a contracting company for tech companies for I don't remember where, but like it came and went, and I remained in their system, and they messaged me a few times for a few jobs. It was like three different jobs that all came and went for different reasons. It was usually like the company would just hire internally, that Robert Half was trying to contract out to. Around for Cisco for IT event management. And I went in for the interview on May 4th at like noon. There's two reasons why I remember this. First was May 4th, so like half the people at Cisco were dressed in like Star Wars
Oh,
gear. And the second was it was the last day of the semester. So I go in, I do the interview, it's like whatever, it's cool. I'm like, okay, that was a nice interview. I probably didn't get the job. And I went to lunch with some friends, and as we were leaving, I get a call from the recruiter saying, hey, congrats, you have the job.
oh, fuck, that was fast.
So that's how I started working at Cisco. It was very fast. And that's how I started working at Cisco. Uh, that was a shitty job. I did IT event management, which what that meant was during an internal Cisco teleconference where like executives would talk to the entire company, I was in the back in the broadcast room on a laptop looking at the health statistics of the codecs that were actually encoding and transmitting the footage. Literally just staring at a screen of numbers, being like, yep, it's stable because this is an ungodly fast networking trunk that's a private network.
So basically, just the Matrix.
Not even that. It was literally like a shitty CSS screen with just like up packets 100%, down packets 100%, and just like really simple statistics that anyone can look at. And my job was, if there was any like more than 3% packet loss, I'd have to say something to my boss who was with me. Um, and it was like working directly with a C-level executive, so that was weird. Um, However, there was only like one event a month, so the other 29 days of the month, I would sit in a team cubicle doing nothing because I had nothing to do. And it wasn't like dick around doing nothing. It was I did nothing. I literally sat there and just stared at a screen, looking at
On
semi work related articles because I couldn't slack off and dick around because you had to be doing something, and they wouldn't give
Yeah,
me
I've
anything to do.
fucking been there before. Obviously not working at Cisco, but pretending to sweep a floor for 3 hours is pretty fucking great.
Oh yeah, no, I get how that goes. Um, but yeah, it was this cycle where like there was supposed to be like every other week a check-in with my manager, and she would always defer it. And like when I would have stuff to do, I'd have to get it approved by my manager, and she'd always defer it. So what would happen is I'd only ever meet with her maybe once every 3 months. And what would happen is she'd go, "Hey, we've noticed that you're not doing any work." And I'd say, "I'm not doing work because you haven't given me work." And they'd respond with, "We're not giving you work because you're not doing work." Um, and then they'd give me some tasks to do. I'd do them, get it in a state for review, and then they just defer the reviews constantly. And this was a 3 month cycle 3 times. It was pretty terrible. And like I graduated halfway through. Um, and then come August of 2018. Oh, so no, Baxter passed away in 2017. Um, yeah, but come August of 2018, myself and like 3 other team members were laid off at the same time. And I was actually kind of glad that I was laid off because it was like I didn't want to be here in the first place, but it was a skeleton team, and I would have felt bad. Yeah. And then I did a bunch of freelance work, like actual freelance live AV for a year. It was like a bunch of like tech conferences and like tax conferences.
I think that was
And
around the
then
time I realized this was a
exactly what?
crazy motherfucker because it seemed like every week you were just, oh, I'm working 16 hours today because this thing is happening.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Like some days you'd work 10 hours, some days you'd work 4, some you'd work 27. Um, it all depended on what you were doing. And then exactly 1 year after that, I got into the onboarding process and hiring for the job I'm currently at. Oh, it's also worth mentioning when I was in high school, when it came down to the last 3 weeks before a show would start, um, because I would have to do the tech rehearsals every night. What would happen is I would get up, I would go to school, I'd finish school at like 2:30, and then I'd have 45 minutes to go get food, and then from like 3:15 to 12 or 1 a.m., I'd be in the theater doing the tech rehearsals, sleep for a bit, and then I'd get back at 6:30 the following day because class started at 6:30,
The fuck?
and I would repeat the process
The
for 3
fuck?
weeks. I would repeat that process for
What
three
kind
weeks
of
straight.
school starts at 6 in the fucking morning?
Yeah, it was dumb.
And finishes at 2 as well.
And
Fuck
then
me.
8 hours.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, that was so I was used to working like excessively long hours. Um, and that's my career so far. And so yeah, at this point, I'm just mostly just going to work. I have a girlfriend from a member of my original friend group that wasn't the person who abused me for 4 years. And yeah,
And you're still
that's more
based
or
in
less it.
California now, aren't you? Oh.
Yep, I moved down here to live with my dad, and I still live with my dad, despite having a six-figure salary, because that's how bad the housing market is here.
I don't know. I just thought because I thought you were moving up. Well, when you said you're working for Amazon, I thought you'd be moving up fucking Washington.
No, so Amazon Lab 126, which is the specific department I work for, is like a subsidiary of Amazon. They're the one that make all the Alexa devices, um, and they're based out of Sunnyvale, California. Ironically, they're across the street from one of the temp jobs I was working for most of last year, which is Moffett Field. That was for Singularity University. Um, that one's weird, but also I don't think I could talk about that one because they're going through some shit, and I don't want to talk about it anyway because I don't like that place. It's confusing. It's like a think tank for teaching how to run their business better and sustainably and something. I don't know. I just ran AV for it.
Oh fuck, Lab 126. It's see
Yeah.
now we're getting into that cyberpunk kind of naming system. You know, everyone goes about like what's it fucking boring dystopia or whatever the fuck. Where all the mega corporations are called Disney and Amazon. It's like Lab 126. Now we're getting into the what we thought cyberpunk would be.
So that was the department that was made like years ago. Those were the people that made the Kindle. That's that department is Kindle and then Alexa devices. Um, and that's its entire own sub company. And I do effectively quality assurance on the devices. Um,
So
yeah,
you basically
it's a
just
weird
sit
job.
there and ask Alexa to buy the most esoteric shit.
Kinda. Um, and like it's one of those jobs, which is a lot of tech jobs, is sounds cool, is actually very boring. Um, my job's all right.
It sounds
It's
cool
okay.
if you go do it the most asked
It's
about
not
way possible. Unfortunately, you have to be exceedingly efficient, which means not actually doing anything and getting a bot to do it.
right. Um, and it's like it pays well. It doesn't suck, but it's not what I want to be doing. So, you know, being an adult. So there's a balance you got to work out
On
with
that
that.
note, what do you want to
Um,
be doing then?
I don't know, and that's the funny thing. So, uh, high school, I was like, okay, I'm good at live sound. I could do, and I was like, I like post production sound because I was doing like that, like post production AV because I was doing that for like all the MLP shit. I was like, I could do this for a living because you go sit in a dark room with a computer. They hand you things, you assemble them, and you make stuff. You give it back to them, and they give you a new thing to do with. And so it's like always changing. It's always interesting. You're constantly making stuff. I was like, that's what I want to do. And then I went to college for audio programming um, because I happened to have some calculus credits on my transcript because my high school had this deal with the college that if you took calculus in high school and paid like a $25 fee, they'd just give you college credits because it was a college level class. Um, so that's how I got Calc 1 and 2 on there. And the recruiter for Cogswell was like, hey, we see that you're going into audio production. However, you have these credits, and if you take audio programming, you'll get out faster. And I was like, fuck it, okay. Because like the core classes were the same. It's just the audio production goes into like more minute detail for like film scoring and stuff, which like I didn't give a shit about. So it was like, okay. Um, and then I actually got to college. And in my first class, the teacher was like, all right, here's what the audio industry looks like. And he like drew a big circle. And he's like, and here's where being like a musician is. And he drew like a tiny circle in the circle. And was like, you're probably not going to be doing this. You're going to be doing something in the larger group. And then he looked at me and another guy in the class, and he's like, right, you guys are audio programmers. And he like drew like a tiny curve at the corner of the whiteboard and was like, this is what you guys operate in. Because we could do audio production, we could do audio programming, we could do DSP, or we could do like game programming, game audio programming, or just straight up programming. Um, like I went to this college specifically to narrow my options, and instead I exponentially widened them. Want to do. I know 9 programming languages. I know how to do audio and video editing. I know how to make music. I know how to make films. I know how to write, and I know how to do quality assurance. And to do any of those things.
Amazing.
Crisis. But I'm just like slowly figuring it out. Mostly by being like, well, this is something I don't want to do, and then moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, bark to you too.
Yeah. No, that's how it's gonna be for a lot of people for a long time.
Yeah.
Is you just gotta figure it out, and like some people don't figure it out. Some people it takes longer to figure it out, and for others it takes less time to figure it out. That's really it.
It certainly is. I think what other things have been happening in your weird and wonderful life that we didn't touch on yet. I think the main hang on, let me. Fun fact: I run a podcast and I can't speak English.
Oh, dude, don't even sweat it. Like I did voiceovers at one point because like I actually have like a decent voice, and I could. Something that happens when I would read things, like read scripts, where it was like do an ad spot, is I just like get weirdly like posh British, and people like that. However, if I actually think about it, when I'm talking, what happens is like I start salivating, and you could hear that in my mouth, like the mouth slaps, and it's like kind of gross, and I'm like, voice acting probably isn't for me then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the meantime, congratulations, you have an American accent. The average American accent, the one that I can never distinguish.
So this accent is specifically a Pacific Northwest accent because Oregon English is like, or like the accent is completely stripped away to where it just sounds clear. And like I did have a Texan accent a very long time ago, and it still every so often comes out on specific words like y'all and ain't. Also like weird mannerisms that my friends point out. But for the most part, it's just the Pacific Northwest accent. However, from living in California for so long, the speed at which I talk has slowed down because Oregonians talk really fucking fast. Californians do not.
And you can guess which state has marijuana legalized. Oh, fuck.
Both of them.
Oh, the more you know.
It's legal on the entire West Coast.
Well, the entire West Coast is 3 states. A scary prospect when you realize that both of them have, or all 3 of them have more fucking landmass than my entire country.
God, yeah. It's so weird. Like, that's the other thing that was weird to get used to down here is like, and actually is now weird when I go up there, is Gresham has a population of like 100,000 and is a larger landmass than the entirety of San Jose and its incorporated areas, which is where I currently live. And San Jose has a population of over 1 million, and at any given time has at least 2 million people in this area.
Just from like commuting and shit.
So like I live, yeah, and I live 15 miles from work, and it takes me an hour and a half to get there in traffic.
Jesus Christ! Oh, to put things in contrast to my bumfuck nowhere, I live in a country of 4 million people in a town of 200, and the nearest city has 70,000 people in it during peak university season.
Yeah, there's way too many people here. luckily, San Jose, because it's mostly just people who live here and work here, and it's like all nationalities. Nobody here like gives a shit about anything other than just like going about their daily business. Um, like San Francisco, Berkeley, yeah, that's where all the people where it's like the SJWs and like the right wing extremists and like the Nazi skinheads, like both sides like just go to war with each other on a regular
That
basis.
was the thing I wanted to talk to you about.
But like, what do you
About
want
San
to know?
Francisco.
Because what I
Well,
was
the thing
getting
about
at
San Francisco. Oh,
is
go on.
so San Jose is actually like 50 miles from San Francisco. Um, and yeah, we don't give a shit down here. Like it's like, yeah, you're whatever race you want to be. Fuck off, go do your job. No one cares. It's actually kind of nice, to be honest. Like to be like adjacent to politics, but not like in the
The taxes
political
are still
bullshit.
ass, though.
Um, yeah, it's pretty bad. But yeah, so what do you want to know about San Francisco?
Basically, just the whole, not political landscape, I guess, but the identity landscape of it, because that's something that's always you're the,
So
basically
San
you're the only
Francisco,
person I've ever heard that's actually ever really brought it up as how fractured the entire fucking place is.
oh yeah. So San Francisco was, it might still be, but for the longest time in like the 60s to the 80s, it was the gay capital of the world. Um, Gay incorporating both gay and lesbian.
Yeah, but even
Um,
then, it was still pretty
but
fractured.
oh yeah. So now it's a lot of LGBT rights stuff, a lot of political, like very liberal. However, everyone is like really uptight and really dickish. Like, example of like compare and contrast from like Portland to SF, like the cycling culture of like bicyclists is Portland. They're relatively straightforward. Like they have lanes and like that, and like they share the road, and like they can be a little abrasive, but for the most part, everybody's nice to each other. Also, I have to put an asterisk: is this information is dated circa 2014 because that's when I stopped living up there, and like shortly after the 2016 election, um, Portland went to hell and became like the home of Antifa. So, yeah, take that with like historical
Nostalgia.
rose tinted glasses, I guess. Um, Whereas San Francisco cyclists not only will like actively break like road laws, like they treat stoplights as stop signs, they treat stop signs as yield signs, um, but a lot of them will not hesitate to like hit your car with stuff if they feel you've wronged them. Like metal water bottles is one thing. And I think it's the first Friday of every month. They do this thing called Critical Mass, where thousands of people on bikes just go through the city and like congest the roads and just like take over the roadways. And they don't give a shit about
So this is
anyone
actually
when they
an
do it.
organized
Like what they'll
thing
do,
between cyclists. Is let's just go fuck shit up.
yes and no, because it's organized, but it's not because there's no like official route that they take. It's just whoever's in front, they go a direction and then everyone follows. And like they've stopped emergency vehicles. They've like they do tons of property damage. They've like put people in the coma. There was one story about like a guy getting pulled out of his car and like beaten into a coma. Um, just look up critical mass. That one's. I'm gonna put that one on you for like
Uh,
learning more about that one because it's just a clusterfuck. Um, Berkeley is where Berkeley is, so of course that's a den of like it. And then shortly after I moved down here was when the oh god, what's his name? The shooting that caused Black Lives Matters to
Michael
happen.
Brown. I think it was.
Um, that guy. Uh,
That
in
was
Ferguson or
yes.
Ferguson, because like there was like there's several shootings there. It was like Ferguson, Charlestown, and Charlottesville that all had major things happen for different
So
things. But yeah, Ferguson. It was after he died. Um, I would get home on the train late at night around like 8 or 9 p.m. 2014, 2015, and like I could look over and would see a faint like orange glow off in the distance to the north east, and that would be Oakland on fire. That was just a thing. It was just like, oh, Oakland's on fire again, um, because of all the rioting that was going on there. So yeah, I've been like adjacent to most of this, but was never like directly next to it. Um, because most of the people in San Jose keep to themselves.
Sounds like they're just trying to survive around surrounded by fucking madness.
Well, yeah, most of the people who live in San Jose drive north to either Sunnyvale, which is like northwest San Jose, Palo Alto, which is further northwest, or all the way to San Francisco to work at one of the tech companies that's over here. Um, um, and we're just focused on living here. Though I imagine if you dig far enough, there's some bullshit too. But it's relatively low key, so that's nice.
Wait, where the fuck's Oakland?
I'm not thinking of any other macro thing I could think of, so if you have anything you wanted to know about, just let me know.
Good question. Uh, I think that's about. We've been going for a bit over 2 hours now, and I think we've pretty nicely covered your entire fucking life.
There's probably a lot more, but so here's the thing. Um, I I mostly fulfill the role of like the storyteller in my friend group. Where it's just like I have interesting stories to tell people that you do like embellishments because of course you would, because you're trying to tell a good story more than anything. Um, but like just telling people about my life uh, in college, all of my friends kind of just looked at me and went, "You live." It's like you live a very bizarre life, uh, doing all sorts of wild shit. And my response to that was, I don't know what you're talking about. My life is normal and boring. And I realized recently the reason why I believed that is my life was normal and boring. What's happening is I'm living a normal life while all this wild shit is just going on around me.
I'd say that makes it an interesting life. But the thing I
So,
think that makes you so interesting, and why I
um,
called you the most interesting person I know and decided to do this entire fucking thing, was your capacity to just say yes to shit.
yeah, that's gotten me into
That's
a
like, I
lot
mean,
of trouble.
if you go back and like listen to this and hear all the stories you just told, it's basically you just saying, "Fuck it, let's go with this thing."
Yeah, so my family has a motto that I think like officially started with my dad. He has like little tags on his car keys that like have it like embossed, like it's like a metal circle tag with it embossed on it. Um, and the motto for my family is how hard can it be? And that should tell you how I got
Yeah,
where I am.
a gross mistake. Well, it's not even a. Is it really a underestimation of something if you still succeed?
Yeah. Um, and like let's see here. I occasionally run D&D. I'm not a good DM, and my players kind of also are not good players. I'm trying to actually like relearn the game for realsies so that I can like actually run it and enjoy myself because several of the friends within my friend group also want to seriously play D&D, but the rest of the group is kind of like, oh, let's do dumb stuff.
We saw that one thread on
Um,
TG and they did something epic. Let's try and recreate that in 30 minutes.
well, like, so I'm the only one who went on TG, and like, so I grew up on those
Oh,
stories from like high school onward. But like they did not. So like they had no idea who Old Man Henderson was. They had no idea what like a peasant railgun is, all that kind of stuff. Um, kind of managed. So I also kind of like did myself a disservice with this group for D&D because the first time I DM'd was 2016 at 10 p.m. every Thursday at my high school with I think 9 people in the
Yeah,
session.
that sounds like a fucking
And
disaster.
because there were so many people,
I mean,
which I had never touched before, and so how it worked was I would actually just make shit up on the spot and like use the whiteboard in a classroom to like make the maps and all the other stuff. And like I was just like kit bashing in like all sorts of random shit. Like I added like I let people do homebrew classes. I added a bunch of like additional abilities. I would ignore rolls and just like use common sense for a lot of things. Um, and I also was like, I want to make them stupidly strong so that I could just throw angry things at them that are cool. So I also incorporated this like materia system from like Final Fantasy VII, where you could like slot in extra shit and become like bullshit overpowered. Um, and I would always do like nonsensical chaotic shit because it would be like 10 o'clock at night. I'd get like an hour of sleep a night anyway because of college, and I was like hyped up on like 2 or 3 grams of caffeine from the sheer amounts of coffee I was drinking. Which, to give you an idea of how much 2 or 3 grams of caffeine is, a regular cup of coffee has 150 milligrams in it. So I was drinking about 30 times that. Um, because I have stronger coffee called Death Wish, which is good if you don't want to fuck up your liver, or not your liver, your kidneys. I've had acidosis before; it's not fun. Yeah, that's how I got through high school and college, was just gratuitous
oh,
amounts of
I know
caffeine.
that feeling all too fucking
Um,
well. Although my problem wasn't a
yeah.
caffeine overdose, it was just that all I drank was fucking coffee until my asshole bled.
Right. Oh, same. Yeah, we had in high school in Oregon. There's this great coffee shop chain called Dutch Bros. They're like little like kiosks you could pull up to in your car, but you could also walk up to them, like just like in the middle of parking lots. And they had this drink called the ER911, which was, or okay, they had this drink called the Kicker, which was like 250 for a small, which had 2 shots of espresso in it and was like um, Irish cream mixed together. It was like it was a proprietary blend. And they had this add-on called an ER911, which was for an extra 75 cents. You could make any size of the drink 6 shots. So I also had an open campus in high school, so I would just walk over there at lunch and for 325 get 8 ounces of just pure caffeine, and I'd drink like 2 or 3 of those a day, on top of like
It
2 pints of Death Wish, which is
sounds
by
fucking damn
itself.
near like it should be tar at that point.
It was very unhealthy. Yes, like I was drinking at peak, I think 4 grams a day, and I did the math. 8 grams of caffeine was enough to stop my heart.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, I was drinking half of what would kill me every day. Um, but because I did that really insane D&D session, I recently tried to do like a legitimate session with the like starter set module, and it just went terribly because like they were all expecting some like nonsense bullshit to happen anytime there was an encounter. But instead, it was like, nope, I'm just doing the railroading like it says to do, um, and slowly trying to get back into D&D.
Oh, dude, you could get fucking weekly subscriptions of Deathwish coffee.
Oh yeah. I'll buy a pound every so they sell it at like several brick and mortar stores around here now, like Target and Safeway. Um, so I just do that now.
Bitch.
I'll just like go in and pick up a pound. I'm actually about to run out again because I drink like a cup a day
Oh,
because I don't want those jitters anymore.
Oh damn, that church. I'm
Um,
looking at their website now. Just there's a church of fucking bones on this. It looks fucking gorgeous.
oh yeah, it's actually very nice. So
Um,
yeah, and like I do like pour over coffee because Portland had like a coffee scene, so it was like I just do it that way because it's more efficient for a single cup. Um, and like I've been to like coffee expos. I don't know that much about coffee. I just know what coffee tastes good. Um,
it's kind of ingrained in you if you live in Portland for
Gundams.
that long, apparently.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And then like I built Gundams, which that started as Bionicles when I was very young, and then Bionicles got
what you
canceled,
see?
and
Oh,
so I
so you
started
stayed
building
all the way till
Gundams.
the end. So I kind of,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
okay. It was before Hero Factory. It was when like the the one where it was like the guy who had the mask that if you swiveled it, it was a different head, and it was on like a giant bionicle monster. He wrote it. That was the last kit I ever got.
last kit I
Um,
ever got was you go back to Creeps from the Deeps, where they where they
oh,
had
was
all
it the
American rejects in the advertising
was it the
campaign.
I could not tell you which ones I remember. It was like
The fish people. It was when they were
2004
really getting
maybe.
into the whole projectile things, where you know you had the
Yeah,
Paraka that had
uh,
like the spheres and the yeah,
had those
but then there
guys.
was
Yeah,
the underwater ones
uh,
where they had like the squid launches, and then the good
yeah.
guys that came after
I think it
that
was
they
like
had the
I think it was like
kind of a Gatling gun sort of thing, like six rotating barrels with red little
yeah,
projectiles. Yeah, I kind
yeah. I think I had like two kits or two sets after
I
that one is
stopped
when I
there because
stopped.
I kind of realized that their plastic was going to shit. Like,
Yeah, I think it was like 2008 when I stopped getting them. But also they got discontinued in 2009.
probably because
And one time when I was in Chinatown with my dad, we found a bootleg Chinese Gundam, and then I just started building Gundams from that point.
amazing. And how many do you have now?
Uh, so built, I have. Let me actually look. I have to stand up and count. So give me a second. Uh, so hang on. I did not hear a single
I was
thing you
just
said in the last minute and a half since I stood
humming to
up.
myself.
Oh, okay. So built and set up, I have 26. Um, and then I have 20 more unbuilt, like in boxes just lying around my room. Because 2 months into Cisco, when I was getting paid 30 an hour, 40 hours a week,
To
as
stare at a PC screen
a
for doing
21-year
nothing.
old. Yeah. But also I was 21 and like historically could only get a Gundam like once or twice a year. I went on to HobbyLink Japan and did a batch order of 25 Gundams, ranging from high grade, which was the shitty. No, it was no high grades. It was just master grades and Verka master grades, which are like the second highest quality kits or second largest style of kits because it goes high grade, real grade, master grade Verka, and then perfect grade. So I got a bunch of master grades. Um, Order because it was shipping directly from Japan to cut down on shipping costs. I want to say all of those Gundams were $400 and shipping was another 150. I've got a couple pictures lying around from like when I actually ordered it that I could probably send in, um, of like me making a disgusting face of like, look at all this shit I just ordered. Um, and that was had I bought those kits stateside, it would have been somewhere in the realm of like $1,200. Uh, Working through that backlog, and also bought additional kits throughout it. So I just have a stack of kits like under my desk, under my bed, and then in storage.
Amazing.
Yep.
And one day you'll find a place to fucking put them all.
Uh,
Heaven forbid, put them all
I
when they're
have
actually made.
So what's happening is I actually have more than enough space slotted out to put them like up when they're built. It's just a case of I need to fucking build them.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
I also
I have a fucking half-built AMX-13 sitting on this shelf over there that I really need to get around to doing. And I
yeah
have a second AMX-13 which I need to deal with as well because someone sent me one not knowing that I already had one.
I know how that goes.
But I have to.
Yeah, like when Barnes and Noble was having like a 50% off Gundam sale. Apparently, I'm the Gundam friend because like 30 people messaged me about it, saying, "Hey, did you know they're having a sale?" And I'm like, "Yes, shut
Oh
up."
fuck! Welcome to my life. Of
Uh,
hey, you like Dark Souls? It's like not fucking really. I like the game, not the set,
yeah,
not the kind of games.
yeah, it's certain ones in that group are good, but like most of them are not. Yeah, here, let me send relatively recent photos of the
I
Gundams.
Dude,
There
if
you
you
go.
just want to like after this is over, just send me random pictures you find of cats and Gundams and whatever the fuck for the entirety of while I'm sleeping, really.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, so I got shit. Beginning of this year I got a new phone. So like I'll have to pull out my old phone to get some of the older pics because like obviously there's no pictures of Baxter on this phone because he's dead.
I
Um
spy an Xbox 360.
but uh, that Xbox 360 with Scott Pilgrim versus the World on it because I actually bought it when I was a kid. Um a Wii that has been modded to be an emulation station. Which funny thing, not that Wii, but the Wii that we had, like the family one we had in Oregon. When I had mono, I fucking love the Pikmin games, and I really wanted to play Pikmin 2, but there was no way in hell I was spending $100 to get a copy of Pikmin 2 because it was like a non-existent print run of it. It's just an expensive game. So I had the first Pikmin, which I think I actually left at my ex's house, and I'm never getting that back. But whatever. I wanted to play Pikmin 2, but like had no way of getting the physical disc. So somehow in my like uh, stupor, managed to take that Wii, mod the shit out of it, and get Pikmin 2 on a bootloader disc to play it without doing any sort of modification to the Wii's firmware itself, and all of it existed on an SD card. And to this day, I have no idea how the fuck I did that. Because like method of like Wii modding involves changing the firmware.
Yet here we are.
Yeah. And then yeah, the Wii. I have a PS2 that was modded to take bootleg discs that I got off of my brother. I have uh, an Xbox lying around somewhere, and then and I think that's it. And then like some handheld consoles.
I'm just looking through all
Yeah.
these Gundams now.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. Also, if you look in the first pick in the back, there is the EVA Unit 1 riding a Zoid.
Oh shit! I gotta find that. I know what both of the.
I've
Oh, there
got
he is. Yep, there we go.
yeah, I've got like an actual like good picture of it. Give me a second.
I was more taken aback by the thingamajig in the fucking back right.
Which
One with the
one?
big ass gun. That doesn't look like a
That's like.
Gundam at all.
Oh, you mean like the weird, like gray one that kind of looks like a rabbit,
I would
somewhat?
have described it more as a Geth from Mass Effect, but sure.
That was from. I want to say that's a GNX Archer. It was from like Gundam Seed or some shit. So let me tell you something that's really important. I have seen like almost no Gundam uh, media. I just think that robots and mechs are fucking cool. Um, and like uh, how I actually buy model kits is if it does not look like a kit I already own, I will not buy it. Or if it doesn't look like a kit I already own, I'll buy it. If it looks like one I already own, I will not buy it. So like uh the RX-78, which is like the Gundam, most Gundams are modeled after that in both like color scheme
Yeah,
and
with
like shape.
the
I won't
white
get
with the
those
red
because
trim and a bit of gold and
the two in the front right of the picture.
the what?
I don't want those because it's like I'm just building the same kit over and over again. It's a little different, but not enough for me to care. Um, so like all of them are varied in their like color and shape. The only Gundam media I've seen is Gundam Thunderbolt, which is not like Gundam at all. Um, because Gundam is just politics in space with some battle
Oh, so
fights
like the
in between.
prequels.
But so pretty much the prequels. They're campy and they're dumb, and I love them. Um, yeah, here's Unit One. Nope, stop it, phone.
Go,
Okay, there we
phone, you
go.
can do it.
Um, but yeah, Gundam Thunderbolt and parts of Turn A Gundam, just because it's so silly. Like I think I've seen like half of it. Uh, yeah. At one point, my room was like covered in plants because I was going through a crisis and needed something to anchor to.
And you,
Uh, it's now a reasonable amount of plants.
I do somewhat
Like I
remember
have like a
plants
couple.
being brought up on occasion.
Yeah, I have a couple on my windowsill, a couple on my desk, and then one on uh, that's like attached to the one of the shelves. Which, if you look in the picture with like the Digimon and Mega Man X and Sigma, you could see like the vines of the plant. It's one of those kinds of plants. Um, yeah, I don't
Oh,
have
yeah, there it is.
much to.
So when you said Mega Man, I
Yeah,
was looking back at the first picture that
and
has little blue men hiding in the bottom right corner.
oh right, I forgot
There,
that
there,
like there's a
there's
bunch of
there's
other
Mega Man
Mega
all
Man
over the
shit.
place.
Listen, Mega Man X was the first game I played as a child, and is still like one of my favorite games, and is also like it is a well-made game. I also like regularly forget that it's a difficult game because like I have the muscle memory to beat it in like 45 minutes now. Um, and I'll like yeah, when I was down here for college, I like made my college friends play it and just like watched them fail horribly on the first couple stages. And I was like, "Why are you losing? This is an easy game." And they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? This game is hard." Um, and then I played Mega Man Zero again and remembered, right, these games are bullshit. Uh, yeah, I could talk about weed if you
Um,
want.
I don't think there's much that can be said about weed other than dude
what
weed.
I
I
would say
mean,
about
but go on.
what I would what I would say about it is like does is it gives you a hit of dopamine really quick, and that's why you get lazy when you're high. Um, and if you are doing something or in a position where like you feel fulfilled, like you're want to be doing, like if you're an artist and you draw and like you enjoy drawing, yeah, taking a hit of weed will be fine because you still get the serotonin that comes with drawing and you feel good about it. Um, However, if you don't know what you want to do with your life and you feel like shit all the time and you smoke weed, you'll actually spiral into depression because you'll get that hit of dopamine and you won't want to do anything. And you also won't get serotonin, so you get more depressed because of it. Um, and you feel like shit further and further. And that is why I am taking a break from weed for a while. Or if I am smoking, it's not a lot in
Well, that
when I do smoke,
explains.
because it can fuck you
That
up pretty badly.
explains why my albeit short-lived experience with weed was so fantastic. Because all I did was sleep, and it was
Right?
amazing. And then I realized,
Yeah. If you
I don't
yeah,
need weed to feel good about sleeping.
yeah, you really don't. Um, it makes good things better, and it makes like baseline things good, I guess. However, if you smoke weed regularly, your brain actually loses the ability to enter REM sleep, which you need, and you get slowly more and more depressed the longer you go, and eventually you develop psychosis.
Yeah, and that's how you end up taking a bicycle on a cruise for 3 years.
That person just had mental problems. They didn't smoke weed.
Uh, it's still a
But
fun
yeah, I
story.
get what you mean.
But yeah, I think we'll call it there. It has been a ton of
Okay,
fun
it's
having
actually
you here. Truly living up
yeah.
to the person I called the most interesting person I've ever met.
Even after saying all of it, I still think it's like whatever
Well,
because
the other thing,
of course
well,
I'm
the
going
other
to
thing you
think
got to
that.
remember is you're fucking 23. You're the same age as me, and you still managed
Yeah,
to pull all this shit off. You know,
I've been doing. So technically speaking, I've been in the workforce since I was
oh, I can
14.
relate to that as well.
Because
Although mine was,
I was registered.
oh no, go on. Oh,
What was yours?
oh no, I've
No,
been
no,
to
go
work
ahead.
since I was 14 as well. Except it was just much less glamorous. I'm
Oh,
I
same.
mowed
Well,
a
like I
I mowed a
would
lawn
do.
and I technically paid taxes. So
What'd you do? Hey, same. Yeah, I'd have to do like yard work with my dad, and my backyard has like several wooden decks and like a fence and like a turtle pond that like my dad just made us build
oh
with
no,
him.
this wasn't this. I was mowing
Um,
lawns for fucking insurance companies.
oh,
Yeah.
how about that? But so when I was 14, I filled out a form with the school district of my high school that legally made me like a temp employee because I would actually get paid doing the live sound stuff for theater. Not for the plays themselves, but for like choir and band concerts that went on in there. Um, and at one point, my high school, like the school district, the teachers went on strike, and I looked into it, and I could have like legally like left school and struck with them. I didn't because I was like, I'm tired and angry. Please leave me alone.
And I
Um,
mean, when has ever one of those strikes ever actually
and
worked?
this one kind of worked. Like I think teachers
Uh,
got better pay.
I
I
don't
could be
know. Maybe
wrong.
it's different in the states, but I mean, they've had a lot of strikes here because one, their conditions suck. But the thing is, they're all so meticulously planned to not inconvenience anyone that it kind of defeats the point, in my
Uh,
opinion.
this one was just enough that like schools were getting closed, and like it was a problem because I lived in, you know, the ghetto, and a lot of kids relied on like school lunches to be fed. So that actually became a problem to the point that like the school district caved and paid people better.
Yeah, but I mean, the
Um,
ones here that they'll tell you 2 weeks in advance, like school's not going to be on because we're all going on strike. It's like, okay, I get a day off. Who gives a shit?
yeah. So it was actually like it was a day to day thing of like you just would find out if school was canceled the night before. Um, was, I don't know if you heard about it or not, but in the early 2010s, did you ever hear about the like gay cake
Yeah, the
controversy?
one where yeah, they just said not
Like
really, but it
they,
was mostly a manufactured crisis.
yeah. So that cake shop was across the street from my high
Oh,
school.
nice. Were the cakes any good?
So there would be there. It was an all right bakery. It was like a couple who were conservative, because, like I said, Oregon is the South, outside of Portland, and Gresham is outside of Portland. Um, and a gay couple who it was a lesbian
Yeah.
couple specifically, went in and asked for a cake, a wedding cake. And this is where it gets weird, is the the actual bakery did not make wedding cakes. The wedding cake thing was a side thing that the family, like the couple, made themselves. um, and so what they told them was, we can't make this cake for you because it violates, Christianity, which I'm not going to go into that, but that's what they told them. And because they're like, a wedding is between a man and a woman. That's what marriage is. And they drew the line. They were very nice about it. They also gave them a list of like other bakeries that they trusted and would make a cake for the couple. And then the couple proceeded to sue the family.
And it's also worth pointing out
Um,
because if I remember
like,
rightly, the lesbian couple, this was not the first bakery they went to. They had numerous bakeries beforehand that would do it. They were actually looking for someone that would
yes,
say no.
maybe.
Uh,
I'm not sure on that one. There were a couple cake stories. This was the one where it was a couple that had been frequenting the bakery for years and like loved their desserts. And they're like, "We'll make you any dessert. We just won't make you a wedding cake, and we won't cater the party because, you know, Christianity." Um, and they got ran out of business almost immediately because, it's adjacent to Portland. Um, and what was annoying about it, of being across the street from it, is there would actively be like 40 people there with signs to protest the bakery, which by that point had already closed down. And it was just annoying to get around.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's really like my whole stance was, I don't have a stance on like if it was legal or not because I don't know the law that well. But from a stance of being adjacent to it, the protesters were kind of annoying, especially since they weren't actually protesting anything because the store was already shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we'll. This is probably this is the third.
yeah. I think this is a good
Yeah, this is the
natural
third time
end.
I've said it. I think yeah, we'll probably end it now. Yeah, again, it's been great having you
I
here.
got
Very fun and informative
yeah,
experience, and I hope anyone who goes back and watches all that MLP stuff remembers you.
maybe. Um, I only made like
7 things.
20 things actually saw the light of day, and most of them were for like one of three groups. Yeah, good intentions, but a lot of people cannot manage things.
Uh, Sounds like one hell of a motto.
Okay.
Alright, see you guys.
Yeah. See you. Bye bye.